Right, what have we got today? Right, well, it's ArmyTek again. Now, if you remember the last ArmyTek one I did, everyone was up in arms going, what a lot of rubbish, it's just advertising, there's too much stuff on them. Yes, you're right, there's a load of stuff on them. Insert joke here. But apart from all the daft advertising on them, the specifications are what interests me with the ArmyTek. Unlike a lot of them which have a drop rating of about 1 meter to 1.5 meter, these have a drop rating of 10 meters. So you can literally drop them off a building and they should theoretically still work. And the same with the waterproofing. Instead of, like, you know, 0.5 meter of water for an hour or whatever, the IPX rating on this is massively above IPX8. You can put them up to 10 meters of water. You know, that's pretty impressive. You can even do that for a couple of hours and they're still waterproof. So I just wanted to state that I think it's an interesting thing that they're doing. They're going above and beyond what the general specs are of most of the flashlights that you see. Even though, yeah, they've got a load of daft advertising all over the things. This is the Prime C one, which I really liked. I like the tint, and I liked its ruggedness, but I know a lot of people said it's a lot of rubbish, it's got stuff all over it. So anyway, let's chuck that to one side. Boosh. Right, back to the thing I'm supposed to be reviewing. First off, I want to note, straight on the box, 10-year warranty. I mean, that's pretty damn good. That's above Olights, which is 2 to 3, depending on which country you reside in anyway, or where you've bought it and the person you bought it off. But interested to see this. So this is the Wizard Pro, the ArmyTek Wizard Pro. Now, this is the V3. You never really find it on the ArmyTek boxes. They don't have it properly. If you want to find out what version it is, you've got to put the bloody the SKU in and try and find out. I mean, even there doesn't tell you. It's got Wizard Pro, Magnet USB, Cree XP 50 Warm. Well, yeah, but what version is it? All the versions are, they're just revisions on exactly the same model. So the version 1 was the initial one, version 2 came out, and then this is version 3, which at this present moment in time is the most up-to-date one. So I've gone for the warm light. You can get it in a white light. I say white light, but it's whiter than this anyway. It's certainly not ice white or mega white or anything like that. So some pretty interesting features on here. You've got a TIR lens, and it's got 70 is just for the middle, the hot spot in the middle, and then the full width of that beam should be about 120 degrees. Plenty candelas, full stabilization brightness. In other words, it doesn't drop and drop and drop. It tries to maintain it and suck as much out of the battery as possible, a bit like a really hungry vampire, and then it boosh, it drops off. It's got a maximum runtime of about 200 days. Blah, blah, blah. You don't want to hear all that. What you want to do is you want to see the light. So I'll explain what it is. So this is running the Cree X HP 50 LED, which is similar to the, if I've got one knocking about, there it is, the Olight H2 Nova, which uses one of these better Cree emitters. I mean, unlike most of the other stuff, I mean, if you go for something like the HO3 and the H1 and things like that, you'll find that they generally use a similar emitter and you only get about 1,000 lumens. This will go nearly up to 2,000 lumens. This is similar, even though it does say 2150 lumens. I'll explain later, it's about 1800. But I'm glad to see that in the literature they have been quite honest about that. So very powerful, this one. It's way over 1,000, which you would get with most flashlight headlamps. So what, have I got everything out of the box? Right, drop kick that. Let's yank everything out and I'll go through them carefully. Right, so that must be the light. There's a clip, charging cable, headband. Now this is, they call this a wristband. So you can attach it to your wrist. Not something I would particularly use unless you're going to a disco, but it does have its uses, I'm sure. And there's the headband, and it comes already put together, which I like to see. You're not fiddling around with granny's knicker elastic trying to work out how it goes together. And there's the fixing mechanism, but we'll go over that in due time. And there's your 2 free O-rings. Now O-rings just go between machined parts where you've got a threaded section where they come together, and at the culmination of that threading you'll have a gap which this can go into, and it ensures waterproofing. And I think it might be double O-rings in this, but I will have a check when I take it a bit. And there's your clip. your clip goes on the outside, and clips are actually helpful for this sort of light. I'll take it out and show you why. Because these headlamps are what are called 90-degree light. So instead of the light emanating here, it comes out at a 90-degree angle. So why is that handy? Well, if you do have a clip, if you're in the army or you're an engineer or something like that, I mean, I generally think attach this sort of thing to PALS webbing. It just clips in beautifully and it's on your chest. And if you're trying to write a report or work with machinery or firearms or anything like that, it's facing where you want it. You could probably also do something similar with camping, although I don't know a lot of campers who wear molly webbing and things like that. They tend to go ultralight. They would probably stick that in their head and use it in the normal fashion. So that's what the clip's for, and it's nice to see, and it's a pretty robust one. In fact, it's extremely robust. That's hardly shifting. That's stronger than Conan's sword. So nice to see. So we'll put that to one side. Here's your charging cable, and I'll quickly show you how that works, because charging is built in on this one, which is a nice feature. It's a similar feature to what you get in a lot of other ones, but it's a magnetic clip. So I'll just quickly go over that. So if you were to have the Nightcore HC65, which I really like, if you unscrew this section, you should have, unless I've got completely wrong end of the stick here, there you go. There's micro USB charging. So as long as you've got your cable, you can plug that in. You don't have to take the battery out and have a separate charger. The same can be said of the Olight, but the difference with the Olight is it uses a magnetic charger. So if I've got one knocking about, if you bear with me a few seconds, there's one. So that would go in your USB and poof, there, that just clips on and away you go. Dead simple, look, as long as you bring them close. Now the only problem with the Olight is they're naughty. In order to use that function, you have to use their proprietary batteries, which are 3 times more expensive than a normal battery. So I'll show you why that is. There, they've got this extra section here. So that's naughty. If you want to use a normal 18650, you can, but the problem is you can't make use of that charging function. Now, that's not the case with the ArmyTek, so the ArmyTek have gone one better. Yes, they've still got a magnetic charger, which you just bring close and poof, in it goes like that. But the difference is you don't have to use a proprietary cell, so you can get any 18650, and with this, they give you a free one. So what I'll do is I'll quickly show you that the charging mechanism in action. If I can undo the cable there, right. So that's that undone. So let's get that plugged in. Now, luckily, I've got a charging port here. There it is, right, so that's plugged in. So that's green. So that means it's ready. Okay, so I'll show you that lit up there. Nice, powerful green beam there. So what you do is you just bring it close and it should charge. Now, why is that flashing red? Well, in order to engage the charging mechanism, you have to slightly engage the circuit. So as is the case with all flashlights, to disengage the circuit, you just give it a quarter turn. That's all you do, and then boosh. There you go, that's now charging. So you see it's green, and then when it's finished, that will change colour. So dead easy. And then when you finish charging, you just need to quarter turn again, and that goes back on. And that works like a physical lockout as well. It means it prevents the light being used, because it doesn't have an e-lockout, which is a little bit of annoying, but you can do that, and it means you can't use the light. So charging works, and it's magnetic. The only problem I have with these magnetic chargers is they're dead handy. Look, boosh, job's a good one, but this magnetic bit can attract grit. Now you're probably thinking, well, why would grit off the floor? Why would soil be magnetic? You'll be surprised. I live near old coal mines and things like that, and you'd be surprised on the ore that comes out and gets put on paths. So if I do that in the soil for any length of time, I'll get little bits of grit. But that may not interest you or affect you depending on where you live, but I just want to make mention of that. Okay, so let's move that out of the way. There you go. And here's the instructions, which I'm not going to go through. You're right, I've memorized that. Boosh, straight in the bin. Right. So if you did want to put this on your head, now it's a 3-pointer, or I call it a 3-pointer anyway. So this goes around the head, this section, and then this goes over the top, and then this is the front section. Now what I really like about this is, and I suppose it's better than a lot of them. I mean, here's the Convoy H1. I mean, this is so cheap. It's ridiculous. It flops forward unless it's too tight, and then it gives you a pressure migraine. It's a bit silly. I don't like that headband. I think it's a little bit cheap. So what I do like is, I like the fact that this one, you can just clip it in and out. So as long as you line up those gaps there, listen, click, that's it. and you can rotate, not a problem, and that's not going to come out. A little bit of a different tactic which was employed by the Olight here. In Olights, they've got a magnet, so what you do is you pop it in and then it shouldn't come out, but the problem is it does. If you bump, it comes out, so it's only strong to a point. You really need to use this band, but with this one you don't really need to use that unless you're being attacked by a bull or something like that during the running of the bull. But so if you did want a little bit of extra though, you can just pop that over. Oops, there you go, and then that gives you perfect protection there. It isn't going to come out now. So I really like this. The only thing I wasn't so keen on, the inside coating is just basic. And this is open and hard. I would have preferred to be a bit softer like this, but you certainly don't want it floppy like that. I mean, one of my favorites is the Skill Hunt. Here's the HO3, a beautiful light, cheap but effective, nice and slimline. And this has a soft rubber, and not just that, but the inside, if you see, it's almost like a fleece. It's not the same material as the outside. So there's the outside, but the inside is like a fleece. I have never ever had any chafing when using this, even for multiple hours, fishing, running, camping, whatever. Never had a problem. Whereas with something like this, I've had a few little nips, because this is harder. If you listen, see, that's harder. So a few little issues. So I don't want to get bogged down in comparisons here though. So let's go over the specs nicely. Okay, so like I say, using the Cree XP850, so it's a warm sort of white, they call it. I'll just show you that. There you go. There you go. Oh, it helps if I turn it on. There you go. There, right. So nice and warm, nice warm light there. I prefer a neutral tint. I don't want to bog this down too much, but your two tints are reminiscent of colour that you would get from the sun. So for example, if you go for a warm light, it's more apt to copy what sunlight does. Sunlight's white, but once it goes through the Earth's atmosphere, it hits the ground and you get yellow. So if you go out on a sunny day, it's certainly not white, is it? Even though you get used to it not being white, it isn't white. If you compare that to like a neutral white, which this is, or cool white. Now cool, as the name suggests, would represent a cold day where the sun is going through the clouds and it's no longer associated with warm tones and things like that. I prefer a neutral like this, nice and warm for outdoors. It just seems to be better on foliage and things like that. I just prefer it. But we're not going to cover CRI values or anything, which is color reproduction index. I'm not going to go into that on this one because I want to try and keep this snappy, because my reviews are getting longer and longer and longer, and they're turning into epics, like the Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, so this one uses a TIR. Now, as you can see there's the TIR. Now, it's not a reflector, it's a lens. So I'll quickly go over this, and for those who hate this section, use fast forward. So generally, you have your LED there on your circuit board, and light just comes out pretty willy-nilly. Let's be honest, it just goes everywhere. So what you can do is, over the top of that, if you imagine this is a cross section, I'm putting a smooth reflector. So this is a smooth piece of reflective material. So an example of that would be, here's the HC65. Now can you see the LED in the middle there? And then you see surrounding it is a smooth metallic bowl. So let's see what happens there. Now, it seems like a good idea, doesn't it? But up close, it ain't such a good idea. Now, the reason being is you get your spill here, which is light directly from the LED. Now, this is the directed light, your spot in the middle. But can you see what happens? It obscures detail, doesn't it? Unfortunately. It's not so good up close. Now, you can remedy that by reducing output or bringing this back. But if you're camping and trying to open a tin of beans, you don't really want to be messing around. I mean, obviously, this one has a auxiliary light, which uses a TIR setup, so that's not an issue on this light. But if you only had one exit point for the light, then you need to consider that. So one way around remedying that is to do what the Convoy H1 did. Now can you see their reflector bowl isn't perfectly smooth? It's called orange peel. It's got an orange peel reflector there that you can see there. It's not flat, is it? So what happens is, instead of having your smooth reflector where you've got your spill coming out and then your spot, which is the bounced light, so you get this on the wall, what you do is with an orange peel, it's pitted and aberrated and it's not smooth. So when it hits the wall, instead of just getting these two distinct zones, there's a bit of sort of mixture between the zones. There's a transition. So there's your spill and your spot, which is bounce light. So I'll show you that just briefly. So here's the H1. Even on quite a high setting here, you see how it's, although to be fair, yeah, it's still destroying the detail a bit, but it's not as bad there. The HDR kicked in there and solved the problem, but you can see that I can still read that. Just, I mean, you can see there's a little bit of a transition between the spill here and the spot. Can you see it on the outside? So it's trying to do best of both. I mean, the whole point of a smooth reflector is to get light to travel distance. Now, do you really need that on a headlamp? Probably not. You're probably not going to be looking over a field with a headlamp. You want to be dealing up close. Now this is more a mid-range reflector, so it's trying to transition the two zones, so it's trying to be okay for a bit of distance but also okay for up close. Now if you want to solve all this problems of zones, what you can do is, there's your LED, just plonk over the top a lens. So what happens is the light enters the lens. Now this is a TIR, so total internal reflection. That's what it stands for. And it bounces around inside and it leaves however you dictate based on whether it's smooth or bumped or aberrated. So this one is aberrated. It's a bit like a bug's eye, so you can see there. So what's the point of that? Well, it gives you a beautiful all transition zone, and I'll show you. So if I turn this on, even on a high setting, can you see what's happened? There is a definable, describable hotspot there, but it's very, very transitioned and you're hard pushed to find it. The whole thing's transitioned. So what happens is, up close, this is fantastic. So if you imagine, if I pull this up to my head, so that would be where my head is. Look at how transition that is. That's beautiful. You can work with that. You can camp with that. You can fish and do work on machinery. So I think they've picked, especially at this output level anyway, I think they've picked the right method of getting the light into the world. So I'm going to move that out of the way. I've gone over that, and I just want to look at some of the specs. So I mean, looking at it, it's fantastic. It's pretty thin, which is one of the things I liked about the HO3. If I can find it, there it is. The HO3 was nice and slim. It was a lot slimmer than the H1 anyway. You can see much slimmer, and this is even more slim in the middle. Look at that. The only bulk that's been added is obviously the tail cap, but that's for added protection. And this is quite bulky, but it makes sense. And these are your fins, which are your heat sinks. You're just trying to add surface space there to allow heat to radiate. But I will go over the heat matters with this anyway. Okay. So 10 meter drop rating, that's pretty impressive. Like I say, most manufacturers it's 1 to 1.5 meters, but they reckon if you drop that from up to 10 meters, it ain't gonna break, which is exceptional. I'll give them high marks for that. I do appreciate that. And as you know, I'm an IPX8 fan. IPX8 means proper waterproof, not water resistant, which is a very misleading claim because water resistant could mean anything. Waterproof, in other words, water shouldn't get in. If you put, for example, something like this can go into water for 1.5 meters of water for about an hour. It should be waterproof, and a lot of the other lights are. This is exactly the same. Same with the HO3. They should be waterproof. This goes way above and beyond that. You can put this up to 10 meters of water for 2 hours. So in other words, let's be honest. If you take this camping, even if you dive off of a waterfall into the water, just like Arnie on Predator, it's still going to work. So that's reliable. I like that. So 10-year warranty, 10 meter drop rating, and 10 meter waterproofing. Fantastic. Well done, ArmyTek. I appreciate that. Okay, so this is using an 18650 cell, which are the larger lithium ion cells, which I prefer anyway. I just want to check this. Is this a double? I think it is, look. Look at that. That's a double O-ring. So there's the first one. And then there's the second one. So 2 O-rings. So if one fails, you've still got another. So I really appreciate that. There's the threading. Looks pretty good. No particular issues there. They give you a free battery as well, which is nice. It's a standard lithium 18650. It says 3.7, but it goes up to 4.2. Now this is a 3200 milliamp hour battery, which is nice to see. So it'll be similar to a Samsung 30Q, but I'm sure the outputs will be slightly different. Let's have a look. High battery without protection. Yeah, you don't need that. Flat top, safety thermal cutoff protection. So nice, free battery, nice to see, and a nice capacity on it. So let's have a quick look down there. What can we see? What am I doing here? Hang on. I review flashlights. Let's try using them here. Right, there you go. So Pretty nice and clean down there, no obstructions. Same with this. Now that's a pretty, yeah, no, that is a pretty decent spring, fair enough, and it's got plenty give in it. Yeah, nice to see. No dings and bangs, and there's your charging section, so nice to see. So let's get that put in, put the battery in. It might help if I put the battery in if I want to review a flashlight. So rugged, I like it. I like the design and I like the button. I wish this was maybe a little bit more recessed, but in order to activate it you have to go beyond flat anyway, so it's not an issue. So nice to see. Okay, I've already discussed you can quarter turn to lockout, but there is no lockout function. So you just do that and it won't work. It won't go off in your pocket, and then that re-engages and bang, you're back to work again. So back off. Right, now I want to go through the modes quickly because there's a lot of them, so I'm going to rattle through these relatively fast. So your first set of modes are Firefly modes. Now you've got Firefly 1, 2 and 3, so hold the button. There's Firefly 1. Now Firefly 1 is a minuscule 0.15 lumens. You probably think, why is that so low? Well, not only does it give you 200 days of runtime, but believe it or not, as long as you haven't gone from a light area into a dark area, that's actually enough to read maps and things and leave on in a tent and things like that. It does actually work. I've tried it, but you've got to wait about 10-20 minutes before your eyes accustom, and when they do, that's actually quite a lot of light. So I appreciate the fact that they've given you that option. So hold it again and it goes to Firefly 2, and then it bumps up to 1.5 lumens. You get 40 days runtime on the battery anyway that they're giving you. Hold again, Firefly 3. Firefly 3, it's not a lot, it's only 5.5 lumens, but it gives you 12 days of runtime. So you could easily leave that on in a tent or something like that. I think that's exceptional. Great runtime. You can get enough jobs done. If this was in pitch black, you would appreciate that. So there are your Firefly modes. So turn off. So you're back to normal again. Now you've got 3 main modes. So if you double click, hang on, let's start again. Double click and then 2, 3. So there's mode 1. So main 1 gives you 30 lumens and that gives you 50 hours. And then hold main 2 is, I think it's something like 165 lumens, and you get about 10.5 hours out of that, which is more than enough. And then main 3, very bright, 390. I've always argued 250 to 350 you can get most jobs done, even in confined space. Probably less in outdoors, but okay, you can get it done. So 390 lumens, 4 hours. So turn that off. So they're your main modes. Then you have turbo modes. So 1, 2, 3. Now you've got 2 turbo modes. So you've got a low mode, which is, well, I'm saying low, but 900 lumens. So that's commensurate with a lot of the other flashlights. That gives you 1.7 hours runtime, and then hold it again, and it bumps right up to its maximum. Now, if you notice on the box, it says, that's a bit bright there, let's just put that down, 2150, but they're actually, in their own literature, they're very honest. So if you go to the literature, what they do is they say, right, LED output, and then they've got OTF lumens. So LED output 2300, okay, so similar to the Olight Nova, but OTF means out the front. In other words, what do you actually get? Well, what you actually get is 1800 lumens. And I appreciate the fact that they're being honest, because you get some ridiculous Chinese manufacturers who say, oh, 2000 lumens, you're not getting anywhere near that. So thank you for being honest. So on that mode, it's going to heat up pretty fast. So let's just get the heat sensor. There it is. So we'll face that away so we're not blinding ourselves here. So that's very light. Now if I get the thermal checker out here, there it is. Let's just see what the temperatures are doing. So at the minute, that's already up to 56 degrees. Now at about 60 Celsius, according to their literature, that should step down. So let's see if that does. So 56, 58, 57, that's not doing too bad. I may have missed a step down, and it's already stepped down, but we'll persevere. Did that step down there? 59. Let's see if it goes any higher. There, now I noticed a step down there. It did step down. Now I'm going to turn that off because it's getting incredibly hot. But if we just have a look, an ambient of 26.5, nearly 61 degrees Celsius. That's pretty impressive. I mean, a lot of lights, they'll step down at 50. Now that's extremely hot, but if it's on your head and away from your body, it shouldn't be an issue. So although that's extremely hot, 60 degrees is a lot, but if it's able to hack that before it steps down, that's incredible. So it does have a thermal step down, so when you reach that thermal limit, it'll reduce output, but then as temperatures lower, it'll then try and boost back up to turbo again. So it will try its best to maintain turbo, but I'm really impressed with how much heat this can put up with. So let's put that down for a second. So you do have some other modes. So your three other modes are, you've got 3 strobes basically. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There, right. So at the minute, it's doing like a 1 hertz flash. Now what it's doing is it's doing maximum output off, on, off, on, off, on, off. So 1800 lumens, 1 hertz, you get about 5 hours. So the next mode is a 1 hertz, but only 165 lumens. You get 52 hours out of that. So a nice, that'd be good for a marker or a beacon or something like that. Now the other mode is a traditional. There, I'll put that down because I don't want to annoy people. So that's maximum output and at about 10 hertz flashing. So standard 1800 lumens, you only get about 2 hours out of that. So let's turn that off. I don't want to annoy epileptics. So other than that, what other modes do you have? Well, you have a special cycle mode. So if you thought, I'm not interested in Firefly 10 and main 67 and then turbo 84, what you can do is you can just press and hold and it goes through all the modes. So 1, 2, 3, 4. See, it's going through every single mode from the lowest to the highest, and then it'll repeat. So if you hear all these different modes, that's probably more for you. So it's almost like a ramping really, but through every single mode. So nice to see. It's also got a secret status light here. You're probably noticing, I mean, this will flash when you get low battery. It'll flash quicker as it gets worse, and then you're going to have to charge it. It flashes red. But what you can do is you can have what they call a status light. So if you turn the light off, okay, and hold this down and then go on, off like that. Now, when you turn it back on, if you watch, if I've done it right, I probably haven't. No, I'll try again. So turn the light off by disengaging it, hold the button down, and then you go on, off. I'm probably not doing it fast enough. And if I turn back on, it should, with any luck. There you go. Right, so I'm not pressing anything. So every 5 seconds, that will flash. Now, that you probably think, what's the point of that? It's a status light, and it lets you know that it's ready to function. It's also good if you were to put that in a tent or somewhere dark. It lets you find it more easily. You can see it flashing there. So it's almost like a locator light. Now you probably think, well, hang on, how much battery is that going to use? That uses an incredibly small amount. It's a very small parasitic drain. So if you put that on, okay, on that battery there, they're saying, don't worry, it'll last 25 years. That's pretty impressive. I mean, let's be honest, I don't know if a lithium ion can hold its charge that long, but theoretically 25 years. So nice to see. And if you want to turn that off, you can do the same trick. So disengage, hold, on, off, then back on. And it does have memory mode, this light, so it'll remember the last one you've used. So all in all, I really like it. So let's quickly compare it. So you've got the Nova from Olight. I have done some testing. This is brighter. This is brighter, but you've got to use proprietary batteries, so very annoying. The ratings on this are much higher than the Olight, so I'll probably still go for this over the Olight. H1, yeah, you hardly got any modes. You're not going to get anywhere near the output, and it's not a TIR lens, and it's got a really cheap sort of headband. HC65 is still a beautiful light. Yes, it's a smooth reflector, but you've also got an auxiliary light and a red light and a beacon mode, which flashes blue. Battery check. This doesn't seem to have a battery check, but it does tell you when it's getting low. USB charging, but that's magnetic. So there's one of your other choices. The HO3, I still think is a highly capable light. Highly recommend this. Cheap, millions of modes, dead nice. Uses the same battery, but obviously no charging built in. So really, you've got to ask yourself, what are you going to use it for? If you want a rock solid light, probably go for this. I mean, another option would be something like the SoFirm SP40. I haven't even reviewed this yet, but this does have USB charging. It's kind of similar to the H1 by Convoy. It's a cheaper one, but I quite like the big bowl there. That's going to give you a nice spread. So here's what I would do. If you want to be in the cool Olight gang, get that, but you've got to get proprietary batteries and it costs a lot. If you're a cheapskate, get the H1. It does the job. Cheap and nasty, but does the job. And I did give this a good review at a low price. If they keep the price low, fair enough. HC65 just does everything. I really like this light. And the HO3 is a bargain, excellent light. It's kind of the bargain version of this, really, if you think about it, but without charging. So this just does everything. I can't really think of a way of improving this other than lower the price. So if you can get this on offer, highly recommend it. I'm going to give that 9 out of 10. So enough of me waffling, get out.